What is Rassie Rasmus's and the Springboks' best 23-man side we can put together from the new 45-man squad that Rassie Rasmus released at the beginning of this week? I think it's an interesting thing to go through so that we can see sort of what the pecking order is and what the strongest team looks like. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. We're on our road to 100,000 subscribers. This channel is all about the Springboks and South African rugby. So if you're a fan of the Springboks and South African rugby, hit that subscribe button. Leave this video a like, and as always, drop your opinions down in the comments. Let's get into it. So starting off with the loose head props, picking the best loose head prop to start. Now, there is a conversation to be had around the bomb squad as well. This is a 23-man side, so we do need to save maybe some impact players for that bomb squad. But in the loose head position, we've got Ox, we've got Thomas du Toit, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, and Boan Venter. Now, if we're picking just our best loose head to start, I think we have to go with Ox in chair. His track record, how he's been scrumming recently in the URC, I think Ox is definitely the best option to start for the Springboks. There is a case to be made for Thomas du Toit. Jan-Hendrik Wessels has also had a fantastic season for the Bulls. And then Boan Venter is a bit of an unknown commodity at the moment. So for me, I'm going to go with Ox and Chur in that number 1 jersey. Into the number 3 jersey, the tight head. Volkolo, Thomas du Toit, Vincent Koch, Neertling Verschier, and Asenati. Now, I think there's a case to be made for Volkolo just because of how well he's scrummed for the Bulls this season. Arguably their best player. I know Cameron Hanekom ended up getting that prize, but Volkolo is definitely up there. Thomas du Toit is probably one of the best props in world rugby at the moment, has had a phenomenal season for Bath. Then you got Vincent Koch, who is maybe a little bit quiet this season. Neertling, who is sort of on the come up, and I don't think we can put uncapped players like Neertling and Asenati into a strongest possible 23 for the Springboks. So for me, I'm actually going to start Thomas du Toit here, and I think that combination of Ox and Thomas du Toit is going to be very, very valuable for the Springboks this year. Moving into that hooker position. Now, I think this is quite an easy selection because we have Malcolm Marx, Bongi Munambe, Marnus van der Merwe, and Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Now, I do think Rassie was experimenting with Jan-Hendrik Wessels at hooker last season, but I do think with the inclusion of Marnus van der Merwe, Rassie now sees Jan-Hendrik Wessels more as a prop, but it is nice to have that versatility in Jan-Hendrik Wessels that can play prop or hooker. So I think our strongest 2 hookers at the moment is still Malcolm Marx and Bongi Munambe. So for me, I'm going to start Malcolm Marx, and then I'm going to bring Bongi off of the bench, but I will be getting to the bench later. So the front row is Ox, Thomas du Toit, and Malcolm Marx. Now, moving into that lock combination. Without even going any further, Ebenezebeth is in that number 4 jersey. Most capped Springbok ever. He just brings a different dynamic and a bit of a different aura to that Springbok setup. So for me, I'm going with Eben at 4. And then for 5, I mean, we could go Archias Neyman. Do we save him for the bench? We can go Ruan Nokia, Franco Mostert, Jean Klein, Loet de Jager, Salman Murat, Kobus Visser, Jean-Luc Depree even. So the stock that we have in the lock department is vast and wide and high quality. So I think you could pick any one of those guys to sort of partner up with Ebenezebeth and you would be okay. But for me, I think our strongest lock combination is Ebenezebeth and Archias Neyman. They bring 2 completely different facets of the game. And when you combine those, I don't think there is a pairing that has the versatility, the dominance at set piece time in open play, can open up a game and just brings you that big dominant South African pack. So for me, I'm going to go for Ebenezebeth and Archias Neyman in that 4 and 5 jersey, but there are arguments to be made for everyone else. Then into our loosies, 6, 7, and 8. Now for our open side flanker, you've got Siya Kolisi, Marco van Staden, Kwagga Smith, and Jean-Luc Depree. Now, I don't think anyone is above Siya Kolisi at the moment in that number 6 jersey. You could argue that Kwagga could start ahead, maybe even Marco van Staden. What was interesting is that we saw some footage yesterday of Marco van Staden thrown into a line-out at the Springbok practice. So maybe Marco van Staden could also be in that hooker position. You never know. But for me, I'm going to go for Siya Kolisi in that number 6 jersey, and he'll also be captaining for me. Into the 7 jersey without Pieter-Steph du Toit, and with Pieter-Steph du Toit being injured, it is an interesting conversation because you have Franco Mostert, you have Vincent Chichuka, Ruan Nokia can also play 7, Jean-Luc Depree can play 7, and Kobus Visser can play 7. Now, I don't think we can include Jean-Luc Depree or Kobus Visser, and maybe not even Vincent Chichuka starting, just because Vincent doesn't have a cap. Jean-Luc has been out for a while, and Kobus Visser has just come in. So you kind of have to decide between Franco Mostert and Ruan Nokia in this situation. For me, I'm going to start Franco Mostert, who can then also cover that lock position and maybe save Ruan Nokia for the bench. Into that 8th man, and this has been a hot topic over the last couple of weeks, especially now with the injuries to Cameron Hanekom, to Ulrich Loh, to Juano Christus. Those kind of guys were being spoken about like potentially taking over the reins from a Jasper Visser for the 2027 Rugby World Cup. But now, without them, we've got Jasper Visser, we've got Kwagga Smith, we've got Evan Ruiz, and we've got Jean-Luc Depree. Now, I do think Evan Ruiz has a lot to prove this season. Kwagga Smith, I mean, like I said in yesterday's video, it's just so hard to not have him on the bench because he's such a good impact player. Jean-Luc Depree, it's going to be interesting to see where Rassie plays him, but if we're speaking about the best possible 23, then I think we have to start Jasper Visser, which is going to close off a very, very good Springbok pack, a very physical Springbok pack, and I think we can dominate almost any team with that pack this season. We then move over into the back line and into the scrum-offs. Grant Williams, Faf de Klerk, Kobus Reinach, and Morne van den Berg. Now, you could go with the experience of Faf or Kobus in that number 9 jersey, but I still think our best number 9 at the moment is Grant Williams. I think he provides something to the game maybe that Faf and Kobus don't, and that's saying something because Faf and Kobus are so experienced. They've played at so many different levels. They've represented the Springboks in World Cups, but there's just something a little bit different about Grant Williams. So for me, I'm going to start Grant Williams in the best possible 23, and then into the fly-off discussion, Handré Pollard, Manie Lebok, Sasha Feinberg, Ngumazulu, and Damian Willemse. Look, I think there's 2 players we can argue about here. Handré Pollard and Sasha Feinberg and Ngumazulu starting in that number 10 jersey. You could pick either one for the best Springbok 23. Handré Pollard has proven himself. He's done it on every single level. 2019 World Cup, 2023 World Cup. Sasha brings you that X factor. He's just a dynamite in a small package. He can open up the game and provide something different to what Handré Pollard does. But I think if we choose in our best 23, we have to go with Handré Pollard at 10. Grant Williams at 9, Pollard at 10, then into the center combination. Now, inside center, we absolutely stacked and spoiled for choice. Damien Delende, Andre Esterhazen, Ethan Hooker, Damian Willemse, and Sasha. I think there's only one choice here, and I think Damien Delende is still the top dog in that position, in the number 12 jersey. He's just so consistent. He's going to get you over the gain line. He's going to defend like his life depends on it. Andre Esterhazen has also had a phenomenal season for the Sharks and is maybe putting a little bit of pressure on Damien. Then you got Ethan Hooker sort of coming through, the young gun who could potentially take over the reins in that inside or outside sense or even the wing position. Damian Willemse and Sasha are more, I think, backup options in that 12 jersey. So for me, I'm going to go for Damien Delende. And then who do we pair him up with? Jesse Creel, who's been there, done it. We're a bit thin on outside centers, Ethan Hooker and Kanan Moody. Now, what's interesting is that Ethan and Kanan normally play wing for their clubs. So I don't think we're allowed to put them in a best 23 if they don't even play outside center for the Bulls or Sharks. So for me, I'm going to go with Jesse Creel. And it is a little bit worrying that Lukanya Um's injured. Lorenzo Julius wasn't called up. There is opportunity for Ethan Hooker or Kanan Moody to really make a name for themselves in that 13 jersey this year. But I'm going to go with Damien Delende and Jesse Creel. And then into the wings. Now, this is, I don't think there's much of a discussion here that Ches and Colby and Kurt Lawrence are our 1 and 2 number wings. They are just a little bit better than maybe a bit better than Makazole Mapimpi, Edward van der Merwe, Kanan Moody, and Ethan Hooker. So I do think Cheslin and Kurt Lawrence are still our best wings, and I'm going to put them there. And then into that fullback discussion in Damian Willemse, Apelele Fassi, and Willie Leroux. I think if we're talking about the best on their day, if they're playing the best rugby that they can on their day, I don't think Fassi and Willie Leroux have anything on Damian Willemse. I think Damian Willemse is a generational player, can switch it on and can really create something. Now, I'm not saying that Fassi and Willie can't, but I think if they're all at their best, I think Damian Willemse has a little notch over those 2 players. So that's how my starting 15 looks, but we still have to speak about the bench. I'm not going to waste too much time because we've spoken about the majority of these players. In the front row, I'm going to go for Bongi Manambe, I'm going to go for Jan-Hendrik Wessels, and I'm going to go for Volko Low. So keeping those 2 Bulls players there to come off the bench and really scrum whoever we're playing off of the park. My replacement lock, I'm going to be choosing Ruan Nokia. and for a couple of reasons. I think he was probably one of the finds of the season for the Springboks last year in that number 5 jersey. So he can come on and replace an Archie Snyman, but he can also second as a flanker. So I think he provides that versatility where he can sub in at lock or he can go onto flank. We can move Franco Morse to lock and have Roan Nokia in that number 7 jersey. And then for my 2 Lucies, it goes without saying that I've gone for a 6-2 bench split. I'm going to go for Vincent Chichuka and Kwagga Smith. Now, Vincent is a bit of a wild card just because he hasn't played a game for the Springboks, but he's been the most consistent player for the Sharks this season. And I think this is going to be a massive, massive season, breakout season for Vincent Chichuka. And I think he's the best option there. Obviously, we have to have Kwagga Smith on, who can cover 6, 7, and 8 and center and wing and wherever he wants to play. And then our 2 backline players, I'm going to go for Kobus Reinach in that number 9 jersey for a little bit of experience. And then our utility back, I'm going to go for Sasha Feinberg Mkumazulu. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.